Hi, I'm Leslie. Welcome to Yoga Flow. So this will be a slightly shorter practice and much more slow moving. So it'll be more of a hatha yoga practice using the wall for pretty much most of the poses today. So hopefully you have wall space that is clear, that there isn't artwork hanging on the walls. I don't want you kicking off your art. And 2 blocks will be helpful. And also we're going to start seated, so if you know you like to sit on a blanket or a folded towel or a bolster, you can have that handy. So it'll start off kind of slower, a little more basic, but don't be fooled because towards the end we will introduce more strong intermediate poses. We'll be working on handstands at the wall and also full wheel pose, full urdhva dhanurasana using the wall. And it'll be a bit more of a slightly advanced variation of wheel pose. So if you know you don't like to be weight bearing on your wrists, this will be a challenging class for you. I will offer some modifications where you can be on your forearms, but when it comes to the handstand and the wheel pose, there will be some weight on the wrists. So just want you to decide what feels best for your body. So we will start seated with our back against the wall, just getting ourselves grounded here. So I've got my blanket right up against the baseboard, sitting on the edge of the blanket, and my spine right up against the wall, the back of the head against the wall, and then from here, let your eyes close. And just feel the presence of your back being supported by the wall here, and your seat supported by the ground. Get your spine long. So there isn't much of a gap between your hips and the wall. Find a urdhva breath. So just really establishing your breath rhythm here. That will be your foundation. Breathe into the base of your lungs, maybe finding an urdhva breath, which is that slight constriction to the back of your throat. And your breath makes a soft whispering sound as you breathe through the nose. Let's do about 3 more breaths here, just continuing to soften the shoulders, the face, the fingers. Okay, good. And then let's come up off of the blanket and we'll come onto all 4s here, please. So with your feet just a few inches away from the wall, start to move into your cat-cow, arching and rounding. Inhaling to arch, you look forward, shoulder blades draw down the back. Exhale and you round, push your hands down, pull the navel away from the floor. Do this one more time. Inhale, look forward, and exhale. Good. Come to a neutral spine, and now we're going to extend through the right leg and place that foot on the wall. And you want your foot situated so that it's still at hip height, and your hips are still pretty much level to the floor. Your toes are pointing down of the right foot. Now push into your hands. Keep your left toes on the floor and hover the knee. Hover, 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 and then lower the knee down. And let's reach the left arm up and twist, keeping the right foot at the wall. The twist might not be too high, that's okay. And exhale, lower the left hand down. Bring the right knee under you. Inhale, take the foot to the wall. Plaster the foot to the wall. Push into the hands, lift the left knee. Maybe lift the foot off the floor as well. You're just hovering the whole left leg, and then lower the knee down. Inhale, take the left arm up and twist. Exhale, take it down. One more time. Pull the right knee in towards you. Exhale. Inhale, place the foot at the wall. Push down into the hands, hover the knee. Stay here with the toes on the floor if you like, or hover the whole shin. And then lower the knee down and reach the left arm up. and lower the left hand down. Let's take this to a twist. So both knees are down, and you'll take the left arm underneath you, reaching it to the right, and the right arm wraps around. So this is just releasing through the spine, but I'm also giving the wrists a bit of a break here. That was a lot on the wrists. So reach back your sit bones equally to the wall behind you. You have the right arm wrapped around your back, perhaps. Back of the hand is at the opposite hip. And then let's unravel the right hand, bring it to the floor, and press yourself up. Just for fun, come high up onto kneeling, interlace the fingers behind you, and press your knuckles down, lift up through the heart. And lower your hands to the floor. Okay. So let's now extend the left leg back, place the foot on the floor. The foot is still about hip height, so your hips are still even to the floor. The toes are pointed down. Push straight down into the hands and hover the right knee, but keep the foot down for now. See how it's going here. And then lower the knee down. And inhale, take your right arm up. Can you keep your back leg mostly straight? Don't worry about if your arm doesn't come all the way up to vertical. Your hips are level here, so that's kind of impinging your twist. Bring the right hand down. Push the foot into the wall, push the hands down into the floor, and lift the right knee. You can keep the toes down, or can you hover the foot? Hovering the whole right leg. And then lower the knee down. Inhale, right arm reaches up. A little bit of restricted motion here, because we're keeping the hips stable. So lower the right hand down. Let's do one more time. Push the foot back, push the hands down, hover the right knee, or hover the whole foot. One more breath. Extend the leg back. Bend the knee, place it down. And twist last time to the right. Lower the right hand down, lower your left knee down, and twist this to the left, bringing the right shoulder under you, and the side of the head comes down. Your left arm is going to wrap around, and the hand finds the opposite hip. Breathe smooth and even through the nose. Release your left hand. Let's come on up. Inhale. And you'll come upright. Interlace the fingers behind you. Firm your thighs. Hips move forward. Tailbone lengthens down. Lift up the heart. Press the palms towards each other just to counterpose the wrists. And then let's come on upright. All right. So turn yourself around and let's come into a downward facing dog facing the wall. So we can use the wall here to assist our downward dog by placing the base of your thumb pad, that is, your thumb pad and the side of your index finger pad against the wall, so your hands are in a wide V shape. Your hands are going to be angled out more than normal. I'm just going to slide the mat back just a little bit. Okay, there we go. And then lift your hips up and back, downward dog. And now the thumb pads and the index finger pads are pushing into the wall, and you're trying to push yourself away from the wall. You're trying to press more weight back towards your feet. If this is your first downward dog of the day, you can start off with your knees bent, maybe alternate bending your knees just to get some fluidity, some length going on in the low back, the hips, the back of the legs. And then look at your elbows. Try not to lock them out. So there's a very soft bend in the elbows, so you're not hyperextending. Breathe here. And then walk your hands back and just come to a regular down dog. So move your hands a few inches, maybe 4 or 5 inches away from the wall. Inhale, your right leg rises behind you. Step the right foot between your hands. Lower your back knee. So here we have the wall pretty much right in front of us. We're going to take the hands up as far up the wall as you can, keeping your left knee down. The right heel is directly under the right knee. Walk your hands as high up the wall as they'll go, and then push them into the wall and soften your ribs down. Big shoulder stretch. Big, big, big shoulder stretch. Maybe your hands are starting to slide down the wall a little bit. That's okay, because your ribs are moving a little farther down the inside of the leg. Breathe into the side of your ribs, breathe into the shoulders. And press yourself up. Inhale. One of the few poses where we're not going to actually use the wall. Half Hanuman, so send your hips back, straightening through your right leg. And your hands can be on blocks here, if you'd like. Flex the right ankle, spread the toes. Spine is just lengthening out forward over your front leg. And let's come back forward into the front foot. Step it back, downward facing dog. Step back far enough away from the wall so we can move through a cobra pose without bonking your head on the wall. So lower your knees down, come all the way down to your belly. We're not going to use the wall for cobra. Tops of the feet down, inhale, rise up, your shoulders roll you back, coming up into cobra, and exhale, come back to downward dog. And bring your hands back to about 6 inches away from the wall. Inhale, your left leg rises behind you. Step the left foot between your hands. Lower your back knee down. And then come on upright. Bring your hands on the wall. So I have my left toes probably about 6 to 8 inches away from the wall. And I have the heel directly under the knee on the left side. Walk the hands as far up the wall as you can. Push the palms into the wall, and then just let the ribs soften down. So you're kind of hollowing out through the armpits and also across the back of the heart. Keep pushing the hands into the wall. They might slide down a little bit as you just soften a little more downwards. Try to rotate the inner edge of your armpits back in towards the shoulders. And then press yourself up. Inhale, move away from the wall, and your hands to the floor, half Hanumanasana. Just finishing up our warm up here. So your left leg is straight, your hips are back over your right knee, flex the left ankle and spread the toes. All right, shift forward into your front foot, and this time we're going to step forward to Uttanasana and bring the back of your head to the wall, and can you bring your shoulder blades to the wall? Bend your knees as much as you need to, and so just the upper back and the back center of the back of the head is against the wall. Don't push too hard against the wall. It's just there, but we're not really pushing too hard into it. And you can walk your feet in so they're right under your hips. You can always bend the knees. That's fine. If this is just too much of a forward fold, if it's too deep, you don't need to use the wall. You can back off, use blocks under your hands. And then step back a little bit so you can come up to standing, push down into the feet and rise up. And let's just go ahead and reach the arms up overhead and bring the hands to your heart. All right. So we're going to move through some traditional lunge poses using the wall. So you might want to have, let's have one block at the back of the mat and one block at the front of the mat, because we will be moving from front to back. So we'll split the difference, one in front, one in back. So here's where we're going to start. We're going to be in a lunge with the right foot forward, step the left foot back. And I have the right foot about a foot or so away from the wall, maybe a little bit less. You're going to really reach back through your back leg and place your hands on the wall. They're just about shoulder height, maybe a tad bit higher than shoulder height. Push, you have your shin bone, your front shin bone is vertical. Now push your hands into the wall and push down into the ball of your back foot. So it's like you're trying to push your wall forward. Hopefully you've got good sturdy construction in your house. Push straight down into the right foot, push down out through the back foot, and push forward through your hands. So it's almost like you're trying to stretch yourself longer here, and you're getting a little more engagement in this pose. Head is just right between your arms. Keep your back leg long and engaged. Lift up through the femur bone. And then let's come upright. And just for fun, let's come all the way up to a crescent warrior. You might need to shorten your stance a little bit. Reach the arms up overhead. And then let's lower the hands down to the floor. Okay. Let's keep the left hand down. It can be on a block if you want to. Reach the right arm up, turn the palm towards the wall, and then push all 5 finger pads of your right hand into the wall. Keep a bend in the elbow and point your elbow towards your back wall, the wall behind you, and turn to the right. You're using the hand pushing into the wall to get you some leverage to see if you can twist a little bit more. And then reach the right arm straight back up and lower the right hand down. Bring it onto your block outside the right foot and lower your back heel. For side angle pose, you can have the block a little higher up if you're still kind of stiff through the hips. Reach your left arm up, turn the palm to face the wall, and then kind of arch your arm overhead. The elbow is bent. Push the finger pads into the wall and turn your chest open. And try to walk your hand back towards the back. It's on the wall, but walk it more towards the back plane of your body, so over to the right. Make sure that your right inner knee is pointing forward, but rotate your chest up, push into the back foot. Breathe. Let's go through that sequence one more time. So reach up through the top arm, lower that hand down. Level out through your hips, lift your back heel. Inhale, your right arm lifts up. Your left hand can be on a block if you like. Turn your right palm to face the wall. Push all 5 finger pads into the wall. Your elbow is bent. And then rotate to the right. So turn your elbow away from your gaze. Push the hand into the wall, just the finger pads. Reach back through the back heel. Lengthen your spine. Twist. Breathe. And then reach up through the top arm and lower the right hand down back to our Parsvakonasana side angle. So right hand on block, lower your left heel, lift up through the left arm, turn the palm to face the wall, and then reach across and push all of your 5 finger pads into the wall. Point the inner edge of your right knee forward. Push your back foot down. Start to walk your right hand, your left hand, the hand on the wall, over to the right. So it's turning you open a little bit more. Breathe. Can you take some of the shakiness out of your breath? Rise up. Let's come to warrior 2. Not really using the wall here just yet. And then come to crescent warrior. You're facing the wall. So we did this already with the back knee down. We're going to try it again, going into that shoulder stretch, but this time more from a full lunge. So this time your back leg is straight. Push your palms into the wall. You're looking down. You're trying to keep your fingers as far up the wall as you can. Push your hands into the wall and soften your ribs down. Big, big, big shoulder stretch. Push straight down into your right heel. Breathe. And then look up. And let's just step forward to the top of the mat. Just give that front hip a little bit of a break. Roll through the shoulders. And then we'll do that whole thing on the other side. So let's step the left foot back to a lunge. Bring your hands on the floor on either side of the front foot. And then look towards the wall, and we're going to place the hands at the wall about shoulder height, maybe a little higher than the shoulders, maybe an inch or so higher than the shoulders. Fingers are pointing up. And then push your hands into the wall, push straight down into the ball of your back foot, and reach out long through the back leg. Your front shin bone is vertical, your left shin is vertical. Just trying to push the wall away from you, but also resisting with the legs. So the legs aren't going forward, they're actually pressing down. And even your right leg is trying to reach back. You're making yourself long. Lower your hands down to the floor. Okay. Right hand stays down. Left arm reaches up. Inhale. Turn the left palm to face the ceiling. And then place the finger pads at the wall. Turn the elbow up. The elbow is softly bent. And twist to the left. Reach out long through the back leg. You try to move your top elbow away from your your peripheral vision. And then reach your left arm up and exhale, lower the hand down. All right, lower your back heel down. Your heels are lined up. Front heel lines up with back heel. Place the block under your left hand. Let's inhale, reach the right arm up, side angle pose. Turn your right palm towards the wall and then place the finger pads at the wall. Push into the wall, little bend in the elbow, and then turn the elbow up. Try to rotate your ribs up. And as you do that, your left knee is going to want to veer to the right, so resist that. Keep the inner edge of your left knee pointing forward. Push into the back foot. Breathe. One more time. Reach up through the top arm, lower the right hand down, level your hips. Lift your back heel. Inhale, your left arm reaches up. Turn the palm to face the wall. Press the finger pads into the wall. Twist to the left. Try to pull your top elbow back. Reach out through the back leg. Push down into the four corners of your front foot. Reach up through the top arm. And lower the left hand down. Last time, side angle pose, bringing the hand onto block, left hand on block, lower your left heel. Inhale, your right arm reaches up. Turn the palm towards the wall. Place the finger pads on the wall. Bend the elbow and turn up through the chest. Turn your slightly bent elbow up towards the ceiling. Push your back foot down. Try not to grip the mat or the floor with your toes. Reach up and let's come up to warrior two. And then turn to face the wall, coming into crescent. So you lift your back heel, your hips are level to the wall in front of you, reach up. And then again, place your hands on the wall. Bring it as high up as you can, but you're leaning your torso forward, so your arms are higher than your torso. Push your palms into the wall and let the ribs just soften down here. Push straight down into the heel of your front foot. Stay active through the back leg, reaching out through the back heel. Let's do 2 more breaths here. And last one. Look ahead at the wall and just press all the way up to standing. Roll through the shoulders. That was really huge through the shoulders here. So now we're going to work on balancing. We're going to end up in a half moon pose with our head facing the back of the mat. So if you know that you like a block in a certain position, have that ready to go now. So that way you won't be struggling with it while you're trying to balance. So let's start facing the wall. And you're going to bring your right foot up the wall. And you might need to reposition your bottom foot so that it's not behind the hip or it's not forward of the hip, it's directly under the hip. So I'm going to adjust my left foot a little bit. Okay, and have your hips square, have your right toes turned up. So just to facilitate my language here, I'm going to call the right foot the wall foot and the left foot the floor foot. Okay, because I'm going to have you adjusting the position of them from time to time, and I don't want to trip up on my words too much. So right now the wall foot, the toes are pointed up, your hips are level. So this is a variation of a balance pose, right? Utthita Hasta Padangustasana, which is extended hand to big toe pose, but we're not reaching for the big toe. We're just have hands on hips and we're lengthening up through the spine. And now we're going to rotate this. So bring your left hand outside the right leg and your right arm reaches back, no twist, and try to look towards the back of your mat. Your right leg is going to be mostly parallel to the floor. Don't worry about it being perfectly parallel. And the leg is also mostly straight, but if you need a soft bend in the knee because the hamstrings are tight, then that's fine. But push down into your floor foot, reach up through the crown of the head and twist. And then come back to center facing the wall. All right, now your floor foot is going to turn out 90 degrees to the left. And your wall foot's still pointing up. And then you're turning your left hip out. And we're getting more open through the inner hamstrings here. So you have your toes and your kneecap of the right leg pointed up. You're trying to pull your top shoulder back so you're facing more the long edge of the mat. Second variation of Utthita Hasta Padangustasana, extended hand to big toe pose. So if we were balancing, we'd be holding onto the big toe without using the wall. But we're just exploring what the pose would feel like if we were to do that. So we're going to take this to a half moon pose. So turn your wall toes 90 degrees so they face forward rather than up. And turn your floor foot out 90 degrees so they face to the back of your mat. And then lower your left hand down onto your block. So make sure that your left toes, your floor foot faces the back of your mat, and you have your right foot at the wall still. It's just a neutral rotation. Your kneecap, your toes are facing forward, not up, and reach up through the right hand. And then push the foot at the wall here. And really let it help you explore the amount of activity that you need in your top leg. So push the foot into the wall, lengthen the spine forward, get longer in the spine, and get longer through both of your arms. Take one more breath here. Lower your right hand down to the block. Level your hips, so turn your wall toes down. Now you've got an internal rotation of your lifted leg. You might need to slightly stagger your feet, so you might need to take your left foot just slightly to the left, just slightly. So you can level your hips so they're facing down. Your right toes and kneecap are facing down. And you probably figured out now that we're going to twist Parivrita Ardha Chandrasana, revolved half moon. So left arm reaches out and then it reaches up and you twist. Now can you straighten your right leg? Push the foot into the wall. Reach the crown of the head forward. I know breathing is tough here. If you need to be on the ball of your lifted foot, your wall foot, that's fine if you feel like your weight is shifted back too much. You want to have the left hip right over the center of the foot. And then breathe here. Really push the foot into the wall. Reach the crown of the head the other way. Lower your left hand down, and then we're going to come into downward dog. So walk your feet back towards the baseboards and down, just a regular downward dog here. Feet are about hips distance apart. Inner edges of the feet are parallel. Okay, we're going to do a standing splits series. If you know that splits are not your favorite pose, it'll really just be more like a three-legged dog with one foot up the wall. And if your wrists are really tender here, you can always come down and rest on your forearms. If you need to, you can do the same thing on your forearms. Okay? So bring your left foot more into the center of the mat, and let's take the right leg directly up the wall. Ball of the foot is at the wall. Try to have the ball of the foot at the wall instead of the top of the foot. That will help you really find more engagement. Walk your hands in 3 or 4 inches. Take your right leg up higher. Now I want you to be really mindful of the hamstrings of the left leg. That you're not coming into splits really quickly and stressing out the connection of the hamstrings to your sit bone. So as soon as that starts to feel like it's tugging or it's tender, back off of this stretch a little bit. Otherwise, walk your hands in, take your right foot up a little higher. Can you keep your hips mostly level? And I'm intentionally pausing before we keep going deeper into the splits, just so that you can assess if you want to go farther or not. So one more time, walk the hands in a little bit more, walk the right foot up. And then, can you push into the ball of the right foot and lift off of your left foot? Hover it off the floor, hover. Just for fun, bend the left knee and reach it up, almost into a handstand, almost, and then bend the knee and place the left foot down. Walk your hands forward, lower your knees down, come up onto high kneeling. We're going to come to a camel pose with the top of our head at the wall. So have your feet, your toes are curled under. Your feet are just a couple inches away from the wall. You might need to modify how far you are away from the wall once we come into the pose. So lift up through the heart, hands on the back of the hips, and then bring the top of the head to the wall. Now if your hips have gone back pretty far towards the wall, you might need to adjust how far away you are from the wall. You might need to walk in a little bit closer. Can you bring your hands to your heels and the crown of the head to the wall? Push your hips forward. Lift your heart up. Breathe here. Tailbone is lengthening down. Heart is lifting up. And then lift up from your heart. Pause here. Sit back on your heels. Find eagle arms with the right arm crossed under. This will feel nice after all those standing splits. They're pretty weight-bearing on the shoulders. So just lift up through the elbows, soften the shoulders. And then unravel your arms, open them out wide, inhale. And then take your eagle pose the other way. So whichever arm was on top last time, switch it this time. Lift up through your elbows and soften the shoulders. So you're crossed at the elbows and again at the wrists. Maybe the palms are touching. If the palms can't touch, just bring the back of the hands together. And then let's open this out wide. Inhale, arms wide, and lower the arms down. All right, come on up to stand. Same thing, other side. So face the wall. Start off stepping right around the middle of your mat, and then place the left foot on the wall, and then see if your weight shifts forward into the ball of your standing foot. And if it does, you just want to adjust so that the weight of your hips are directly centered over your right foot. And your left leg is at the wall, left foot is at the wall, and this leg is mostly perpendicular to the floor. It doesn't have to be perfect. If we were doing full hand to big toe pose, this leg would actually be angled up higher, right? So we could hold the toe. So level your hips out. Your wall foot, the toes are pointed up. Same with the floor foot, the toes are pointed forward. Let's start with twisting to the left. So bring the right hand outside the left leg and reach your left arm back. Push down into the floor foot. Reach up through the spine. Try not to hike your left hip up. So keep your hips level and turn. Keep that length from the crown of the head all the way down into the foot below you. Can you breathe? Come back through center. All right. Now their floor foot, you're going to turn it out 90 degrees so it faces out to the side. It faces the long edge of the mat. Keep the wall foot toes pointed up. The kneecap points up. And then pull your right hip back. So you're starting to open now through the groin, through the inner hamstrings of the left leg. You're not pressing firmly your left foot into the wall. It's just there for balance. I have my left hand to the inner knee here to remind this leg, this left leg, that it needs to remain externally rotated. So that means the outer thigh is descending, the inner edge of the leg is lifted, and drawing your right shoulder back. You're directly centered over the floor foot. And then we're going to try our half moon pose. So let's start with the wall foot. Turn the toes 90 degrees so they face the side wall. Floor foot, turn those 90 degrees so they face the back of your mat. Might take a little bit of inching the foot to get it to rotate. And then as you lower down, you might want to start with bending your standing leg so that you don't overdo it in the hamstrings. Find your block. Half moon pose. So you're pushing the wall foot against the wall. You've got a neutral rotation to that leg. The kneecap, the toes are turned to the side. Your standing foot are turned towards the back of the mat. Reach up through your left arm. Find an engagement to the right glutes here. So firm them in towards the pelvis. Reach up through the arm. Get length in the spine. So here we don't have to worry so much about balancing, and instead we can explore some of the other aspects of this pose, such as, are you lengthening long through the arms? Are you reaching the spine long? Are you breathing? What's going on in your top leg? Are you engaging it? Let's lower the top hand down to the block, and you're going to rotate the wall toes down. Turn the toes at the wall down, the kneecap points down of your lifted leg. All right, just make sure your bottom leg is still, the heel is still directly under the hip, toes facing the back of the mat, and then reach up through your right arm and twist. Revolved half moon pose. Hips stay level. If you cannot totally rotate and reach your right arm up, that's fine, because there's a little bit of a restriction here because we're not twisting from the hips, we're twisting from the spine. The foot at the wall is really helping the hips to stay level, so it might mean that you're not twisting quite as much, but you're probably still feeling it, still feeling the twist, right? It takes a lot of core strength to hold this. Extend through the back leg, push out into the wall. And then lower the hand. Lower the back foot. And let's step it back, downward dog. Heels against the baseboard. Push the heels into the baseboard. And this is a reminder, whether your heels are off the floor or down, the heels are against the baseboard. And it's just a reminder that we're pushing more weight back into the feet and taking some of the weight off of the shoulders in downward dog. Reach the toes forward. Don't grip the floor with your toes. And then standing splits here. So take your right foot more into the middle of the mat, and your left leg goes straight up. The ball of the foot is on the wall. Walk your hands under you about 6 inches or so, and reach up through your lifted leg. And I like to take a good 2 or 3 breaths at least before I go deeper into the pose, just to make sure that it's not my ego that's driving me into it, that I'm really listening to the body. As soon as you start to feel any uncomfortable tugging, walk in a little bit. But if you feel uncomfortable tugging, back out of it, back out. Can you keep lifting up through the inner heel of your top leg? Keep your hips somewhat level. Once you've reached your maximum height, remember we go nice and slow there. I know there's a lot going on in the shoulders, so we'll be here a little bit longer. Push into the ball of your wall foot, and try to hover your bottom foot off the floor. This is some core. And then bend that knee and reach up through the top leg, so we're almost in a handstand. And then lower, lower, lower. Bend the knee, place the right foot down. Walk your hands forward, come out of the pose. Come onto your knees. Stretch through the wrists. Interlace the fingers behind you. And press the palms into each other as you press the knuckles down. Firm your thighs. Lift through the heart. We'll do that round of camel pose again with our head at the wall. So walk in a little closer. And for this pose, we all have different proportions of bones in our bodies. You know, maybe your arm bones in proportion to your torso and proportion to your legs are going to be different than my proportions. So for me, I like to be, my feet are about 3 or 4 inches away from the wall. And I might actually adjust that. So try to have the hands on your hips and bring your head, top of the head to the wall. So you're looking up at the ceiling. And if your hips are just slacking backwards, then you might need to walk your feet in a little bit, in towards the wall a little bit, bringing the knees under you a little bit more. Now we're going to see if we can hold on to the heels. So reach down for the heels. Send the hips forward. Take the top of the head to the wall. Look up. Lift up through the heart. Tailbone descends. Firm your thighs. Try to breathe the best you can here. And then lift up and heel. Sit back on your heels. All right. Cross the right arm across your body. Cross your left forearm in front of the right forearm and pull the right arm in closer towards you with your left forearm. So we're stretching across the deltoids, the right deltoids. And then other side, take your left forearm across the chest. Make a cross with your forearms, right forearm against left, and then use your right arm to pull the left arm in closer towards you. And you're drawing your left shoulder back at the same time. All right, are we ready for handstands? This is so exciting. So some tips on handstands. I'm going to give you some tips. Maybe you're a pro at this, in which case, go for it. Knock yourself out. You're going to turn around and face the wall. If you have not done handstands since you were a kid, and I know most of us did. We did all kinds of like somersaults and flips when we were kids, and then we became adults and we forgot how to do it. So we're gonna retrain the body how to do handstands. So here's the elements of it. You're gonna have your hands on the floor facing the wall, and I keep my hands about 6 inches away, because if my hands are right up against the wall, I'm probably gonna just ricochet right off the wall as soon as I try to kick up. We don't want to be too far back though, because then when you come up into handstand, it'll just end up being a big back bend. So we don't want to go for a big back bend for this. So hands just a few inches, maybe 5-6 inches away from the wall. Come into downward dog. Walk your feet in closer. You can watch this first one if you want to, if you're not familiar with handstands. Walk your feet in closer so your hips get higher up over your hands. And then one leg is your kicking leg. It's your whipping leg. That's going to just whip you up. The other leg, the one that's on the floor here, that's my spring. So as I spring off of the leg on the floor, I whip up and I kick up. And then do that again and see if you can come up and land really softly so you're not just crashing through the drywall. Land softly, heels to wall. Do that again. Lower down, get a couple little whips going in your kicking leg, bending the knee of your spring leg, and then spring off of it. Use your core to come up and look towards the wall behind you, not towards the wall that your fingers are facing, just to keep the neck in alignment. Push down into the hands, try to lift the shoulders up off of the arms, and then lower down. Come into a forward fold. You can do this against the wall if you want, with your back against the wall if you want, or not. We're going to stand on the hands to counterpose the wrists. So if you want to, come back with your back of your head against the wall and place one hand and then the other under your feet. You might need to bring your feet in a little closer. You can always keep the knees bent. And then, can you bring the upper back against the wall as well? Push your feet down into your hands, and this will stretch through the wrists, and obviously through the hamstrings a lot. Close your eyes and breathe. So you were probably kicking with one leg and springing off the other. So we're going to try to balance that out. Walk back. Now you're going to switch your legs. The leg that you were using that was straight, was your whipping leg, that's now going to be your springing leg. The one that was bent on the floor, that was springing, that's going to be your straight whipping leg. So if you're still getting the hang of handstands, here's the action. Whether you kick up off the floor or not, here's the action. One leg stays straight and it's just a whip-like action, up and down, up and down. The other leg that's on the floor is bending and it's becoming very springy. That's the one that's going to spring you up. And then you use your core muscles, and when you're ready, you hop up off of your springing foot, and you whip yourself up with your straight leg, and you come into your handstand. And then don't look at the floor, look at the wall that's right in front of you. Can you get lighter off of your heels so you're balancing a little bit more? And then lower one foot, and then the other. Come into a squat. Press the back of your hands together so the knuckles are pushing into each other, and just give that a good press, just counterposing the wrists. We got one more pose against the wall. So we prepped for back bends already. We got into the shoulders a lot when we had our hands at the wall from that lunge, and then we did our camel pose. So now we're going to try wheel. If you know for a fact that wheel pose is not your pose, and trust me, I've been teaching yoga for 13 years. I know wheel pose is not for everybody, especially if your shoulders are tight. So you can always come down onto your back and do a bridge pose instead of wheel. If you're still learning wheel, come onto your back and try a wheel pose with your wrists against the baseboards. Let's all do that first, and then I'll come up and show you a more advanced version. So we'll just start off with the basic. We'll use the wall. It helps. You're going to take your 2 blocks and angle them up the wall. So I have them angled up the baseboard. And they're going to be pretty wide, like outer shoulder distance apart. We're going to have our head right down between the blocks, and we're going to place our hands on the blocks. This is going to help with wrists and with shoulders in wheel pose. So you lower your head down between the blocks. You place your hands on the block. So the fingers are curled down the front edge and your elbows are pointing up. And make sure that the blocks are stable, that they're not going to slip off of the baseboards. If you don't have baseboards, this probably won't work. You need a little bit of a ledge so the blocks don't slip. They're ramped up. Push down into the blocks. Pin your elbows up. Push into your feet. Lift your hips. And then exhale and push yourself up. And can you straighten your arms? And can you move your heart towards the wall? Here's where we're going. If you're okay with this and everything's so far so good, you're going to bring one hand onto the wall and then another, and you're going to push up, 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 walk your feet in, come all the way up. And then we're going to come back down that same way. You ready? It's going to be a little scary. I'm not going to lie to you. If you want to keep the blocks there, you can. Just know we're going to start standing. We're going to back bend to the wall, walk our hands down. Think of yourself as like you're just Spider-Man. We're going to walk our hands down the wall. They can either land on the blocks or move the blocks and your hands will come to the floor. I'm going to do hands on floor. Just because that makes me feel personally more secure because that's what I'm used to. All right? Stand about a third of the way down the mat. And then as we bring the hands to the wall, we start walking down. Then you can slowly inch your feet forward. But this will give you a little more security, standing a little bit closer into the wall. Once we're in wheel pose, we'll end up with our feet more forward. Okay? But that's going to be really scary, bringing hands to wall. So start in a little closer, maybe a third of the way down the mat. Hands to the low back, lift up through the heart. Look up at the ceiling. Lean back, look at the wall behind you. Bring your hands up and overhead to the wall behind you. Not so bad so far, right? Start to walk your hands down the wall and your feet forward. Push the hands into the wall so they don't slip. Push, push, push. Bring the hands to your blocks or to the floor. Here we are, wheel pose. And we're just going to lower down onto our back here. So tuck your chin, look up at the ceiling, lower the back of the head, lower everything down, down, down. Pause here. Take the feet wide on the mat. Bring the knees together. Hands rest on your lower abdomen. This is fanning out the low back and the sacrum area. Just giving some space in the low back. And I don't want you to really hug the knees in right after a big back bend. A lot of people do that because it does feel kind of good, but there's a risk that your back muscles might spasm if you go from a big back bend to a big forward bend immediately. So we're just bringing the spine back to neutral. Okay. And then let's bring the knees in towards us a little bit. Bring the hands on the knees. And we're going to just slowly circle the legs. Keep the legs pinned together. The knees are bent. And you're just moving the knees together, guiding them with the hands, moving them in a circular motion. And circle them around the other way. Last time. Good. All right. Last pose is going to be a very supported restorative shoulder stand. So turn around so you have your feet to the wall. Have one block on either side of you. And have your hips right up against the wall. Actually, maybe just a few inches away from the wall. Your legs up the wall here. One block on either side. Okay. Push your feet into the wall with your knees bent. Lift your hips. Let's just roll up and down like this a few times. So lower the hips down. Your knees are bent. Your feet are pushing into the wall. You lift your hips. And they don't have to come up aggressively high. Just as high as it's comfortable, and then lower the hips down. So I like this because it massages through the upper back. And it's also engaging your hamstrings and your glutes. If we were to do this around 100 times, you would really be feeling this in the back of the legs. But for now, we're just finding a massage through the upper back, just lifting and lowering. And the next time that your hips are high, you'll grab your blocks. Place them in the high position and stack them right up next to each other. So it's like you have one big block. And then let your top of your hips, the back of your hips, just rest on the shelf of the block, and your legs extend up. So you don't want the blocks on your spine. You want them right, the two blocks are stacked together in the high position, and they're right underneath your pelvis. And your legs are just angled up, and your heels are against the wall. If this is not comfortable, the position of the blocks under you, take them down to the lower position, maybe the medium position. In that case, you'll probably just only need one block. You're just you can let your pelvis rest on one block on the wide position. If this level, this high level is not feeling right. This is a restorative shoulder stand. So we have the hips pretty high, relatively high over the heart, not as high as in a traditional shoulder stand, but we're just finding a softer variation here and using the wall to support our legs. You can close your eyes, turn your palms to face up, work the upper arm bones under you a little bit. Just let the torso rest, and again, please know that if this is not comfortable for the back of your hips, adjust the blocks to a lower position. Let's do a couple more breaths here. Place your feet at the wall with your knees bent. Lift your hips off of the blocks, move the blocks away, and lower your hips down. Let's find one twist. So just lower both of your legs to the right, so your feet will be at the wall or the baseboard, and just twisting, knees to the right. Reach out longer through the left arm. And then bring your knees back up and rotate over to the other side. Legs come over to the left, arms reach out long on the floor. And if the right shoulder blade is hovering off the floor, then just you can elevate your feet, maybe stick a block under your legs. Stay with your legs to the left and just roll your torso over so you're to the left, so you're in a fetal position. Press up to seated. And come to seat, hands together at the heart. Bring the hands together, close your eyes, bow your head to your heart. Notice how you feel. Maybe a little exhilaration from all of those crazy moves, back bends, inversions. Maybe you feel grounded, maybe you're somewhere in between. And then lift the gaze. Okay, thank you for joining me today. Namaste.